Hey everybody, I'm Jack. Welcome to another episode of Raw Tropical Living. Man, I don't know where the time goes. Just blink tonight, turn around, and it's almost the weekend again. Man, time just goes by too fast. We're going to be into fall and into cold weather before you know it. So I just try to slow that time down and enjoy every day sometimes because, man, you know, days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, and then you got all this gray. Anyhow, today I want to talk about the raw food diet, fasting, detox, and healing. Guys, I do videos every day, so if you haven't already done it, go down there and hit that subscribe button now, and then immediately click on that little bell and check send notifications so YouTube will keep you subscribed to the channel. This is just a topic I've talked about it a number of times, although I don't talk on it a whole lot. Just because you constantly get questions about it. I think there's something about almost kind of mystical about this lifestyle. Just the eating part of it isn't all that interesting to some people. They just really want to do the whole, it's kind of mystical and a little bit of mysterious, this whole detox and cleansing and healing word. Even those words are kind of a little bit more, you know. But I do believe in these things for certain reasons, and I'm just going to talk about today my views. Once again, I just kind of like to clarify because people ask me my views on things. Just like with most topics here, I'm not saying this is an authority. I'm not saying this is, you know, you always do your due diligence and figure out for yourself. I don't even necessarily have, you know, like really strong concrete thoughts on this. Or concrete beliefs on this, but this is just kind of my thinking from my understanding, where I'm coming from, and the level of health that I actually enjoy and I'm grateful for. You have to remember that too as you're asking me questions and as you're kind of looking to me and kind of trying to take things from me, is that regardless of how I lived my life before, and it was horrible, I was a drunk for 30 years, I ate garbage food just like other people, but I came into this with no health issues or no apparent health issues coming into it. So, you know, I approach this a lot differently than I would or I would think somebody else should if they had health issues on this lifestyle. And a lot of times, you know, and I love to make a little snarky remark every once in a while because I just see the fasting people. There's a place for it, but like everything else associated with this lifestyle, you get the people that are just, everything is woo-woo. They're always attracted to anything, like I say, mystical, woo-woo. So that's all they're talking about is feasting, fasting, cleansing the body, detoxing the body. And once again, it's not judgment and I'm not throwing shade, but for all this detox and fasting and cleansing and stuff that they do, they don't look all that sparkly. They don't look all that bright. You don't see that lightness that I guess that most of us are going for, you know, where you just look at those eyes and you're like, okay, yeah, they're getting something there. I just don't see that a lot of times. And I'm talking about here the ones that tend to make kind of the whole fasting detox thing their whole way of life. You know, that's all they ever talk about. That's all they're ever doing. Like I say in videos, no matter where you're coming from health-wise, no matter, you know, if you use fasting for healing or if you use whatever method, at some point, you're going to have to learn how to eat. So if you're just delaying, if you think all this fasting is delaying you actually having to get down and learn how to feed yourself, well, you're going to have to do it eventually. But once again, I also don't want to make so light of fasting that it's like I'm throwing it under the bus and I don't believe there's any value in it whatsoever. Listen, I've stated a number of times when it comes to this lifestyle, this diet, I would prefer to call it a lifestyle, but it is a diet because it's what we eat. And by definition, what we eat is our diet. And with this food, none of this food's going to heal you. There's no superfood that I believe is going to heal you. There's no herb that I believe is going to heal you. It's not what we're adding. It's the subtraction where the healing comes from. And as a prop over here, and I'm going to remember this time, I've got it marked. I will put a link below. I didn't even read the article. I just looked it up because I've got this graphic. It's like a little, not a meme, but just an image of the pyramid to health. Every time I've talked about this before, I always get, well, where's a link? Where's a link? And I can't find a link. So I did a little bit of backtracking and I found a link to it. But I had the photo already and I'm looking at it, and everything you move up the healing pyramid is about removing. It's not about add this, eat this, make sure you get this, 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 and this, get this special herb that's in a bottle, which, by the way, if I'm ever going to use herbs for rebuilding the body after healing, it's going to come from nature. I'm not going to be taking herbs from bottles and whatever. Now, that's, you do whatever you want to, but yeah, it's going to be from nature. But I don't think there's anything out there that we actually have to put into our body to heal our body or to cleanse our body or to detox our body. But I'm not saying that 100%. I'm not saying there's not something out there under some healing mode that I might not use a little bit differently. But everything's about removing. Now, if you start at the very bottom of the pyramid where they're working their way up, you're going back almost before where most of us are starting right now if you're plant-based, if you're vegan. The first level is remove all processed packaged foods and oils and alcohol. So interesting that, and this comes from a source that I respect, so they even have that before. The next one would be remove dairy, sugars, eggs, and grains. Interesting. I've always thought that too. See, a lot of this stuff is just like, the reason I keep this healing pyramid is once I saw it, it totally resonates with how I think the progression goes as far as, the body getting cleaner and healing. Because that next one is something I've always thought too. That the dairy, especially from the health aspect, if somebody said, I'd say get both of them out of your life as soon as possible, but I would say remove that dairy before removing the meat. And they've got dairy, sugars, eggs, and grains before they have the next step, which is remove all animal products and go 100% plant-based diet. Now, that's the third rung on the ladder. Now, as we go up, the only time I see the word in there, and that's just, I think, to deal with the things you're removing, it's introduce more raw foods, smoothies, juices, and germinated nuts, seeds, and sprouts. So now, I guess, well, at that point, people would still be eating some cooked plant-based. Then you introduce them more. The next step up, you remove all vinegar, spices, coffee, cacao, seasonings, and supplements. Ooh, my cacao, now I enjoy my cacao in my smoothies. I don't use a lot of it. I would say if I go by the bag, the serving size, and serving sizes tend to generally be smaller than what you're really going to eat. I don't even use a serving size, but I do see that. If someone was healing, if I was healing from something, I would not be using that. Okay, the next step up, we remove all cooked foods, 100% raw through increasing plant carbohydrates. Next step up, and now you see the progression, how we're honing through that plant-based and it's getting cleaner and cleaner. This all makes so much sense because this just is what I've thought naturally. Next step up, you reduce the whole food fats, the nuts and the seeds. Next step up, now you're going down, you're basically eating raw fruit, greens, and tender vegetables. Next step up, mono fruit and greens. Okay, now we're 3 steps from the top, or 2 steps from the top. Next step up is doing juice cleanse. Next step up, water fasting. And the top step, dry fasting. Now, once again, I don't want to listen, this isn't about how to advise you or advise you if you should or anything. All I'll say about that, just to kind of have the disclaimer out of the way, if you were ever going to attempt an actual fast, a water fast, a dry fast or whatever, I would really look into that and I would have supervision when you're doing it, if you're doing it for more than a couple of days. Just a little fun fact, a dry fast, a one-day dry fast equals about 3 days of water fasting. Now, these are things that I could see myself doing if I got sick. The juice cleanse, knock on wood, I don't get sick all that often. But if I were to get sick, if I was to pick up one of these flu bugs, a cold or whatever, I would probably start near the top. I'm not going to necessarily say for a cold or something I would necessarily jump into a water fast, although I might. It just depends on what mood I'm in. But I would definitely get up there very high. I would probably oh, the next time I had some sort of little illness like that, I would probably try to do mono fruit and greens because that's just the easiest way for me to do it here. I might mono meal just some fruit. I might do a juice cleanse. But if it felt, if I felt, okay, let's see how quick we can knock it out, I would probably water fast. Now, if I got something, life-threatening, then I don't want to get into a crazy, insane conversation between myself and my head on video, but number one, if I was to get cancer, I'm not saying it's impossible for us as raw vegans not to get something like this, but I think if we're, kind of working our way through it, trying to learn more and more, keeping just basically eating clean, that our chances are very low. Probably though, yeah, if I had something life-threatening, I'd go straight to water fasting. Or I would play around in juice fasting a little bit, juice cleansing, and see what the results are with being ready to jump to water fasting. But I think I would just want the most healing powers I could get. So probably if I had something life-threatening, I would be very inclined to jump into a serious water fast, possibly with some dry fasting added in there. Now, as I'm saying this, once again, I'm not advising anybody what you should do, how you should deal with this. That's just kind of my loose interpretation of things. And my understanding of things is always being updated. It's like a website that's constantly being updated. I learn new things. I learn new things through how my body feels and does on different stuff. So once again, none of this is like advice. None of this is like anything other than just kind of, like I say, my reflection on it. I will say, and I'll end with this, and I've mentioned this 100 different times, but it's just always good to reiterate it. Our body is basically about us getting out of the way. And the less that we're taking in, the less that our body, it's all about energy. I'm back on my kind of energy kick. Everything's about energy. And when we're trying to heal the body, we want as much of our energy going towards that healing as possible. So it just makes sense. That's common sense. If we want as much energy going towards healing as possible, we take digestion out of the question because it takes a lot of energy in our body. I don't have numbers on that. You can look that up if you do a few Google searches on how much blood it takes, to digest certain foods, and just how much energy in general goes toward digestion. Well, when you don't have that energy going towards digestion, it's all going towards the healing of the body. So for me, it's always going to be a reductionist thing and not an adding to thing. Like that's why the superfoods thing never really resonated with me, although there's some foods that I do really like to include in my diet. But once again, I think we're talking different apples and oranges there. That, the fasting, the removing things is for the healing, and say the herbs and certain foods, and which could include superfoods, are more for building back up the body in a healthy way. But once again, just my interpretation of it all, and that's just coming from the senile old hippie here. So anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.